Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt your shoulders relax? No one said a word. Nothing special happened. Yet somehow your mind became quieter. Now think about the opposite. A room where clothes are scattered across a chair. Papers pile up on the table. Shoes sit in the hallway. A kitchen counter disappears beneath unopened mail, grocery bags, and yesterday's coffee mug. You haven't even started your day. Yet somehow you already feel tired. Most people believe this feeling is simply part of modern life. They blame aging, a busy schedule, poor sleep, stress at work. But what if one of the biggest contributors to your daily stress has been sitting quietly around you all along? Your home. Not because it's old, not because it's small, but because your brain never truly stops responding to the environment around it. Every object your eyes notice, every unfinished task lying in plain sight, every drawer overflowing with things you've been meaning to organize. Your brain keeps processing it, even when you don't realize it. Scientists call this environmental load. In simple words, your surroundings constantly communicate with your brain. Some spaces encourage calmness. Others quietly create tension. And over weeks, months, even years, those tiny signals may influence how focused, relaxed, and emotionally balanced you feel. This doesn't mean a cluttered home causes disease. Health is shaped by many different factors, including genetics, lifestyle, sleep, relationships, and medical conditions. But growing research suggests that our living environment is another piece of the puzzle, one that many people overlook. Perhaps that's why one country has fascinated researchers, architects, psychologists, and wellness experts for decades.
Japan.
A country where many people live in surprisingly small homes, where storage space is often limited, where families sometimes live in apartments much smaller than those found in many other countries. Yet visitors often notice something remarkable. The homes rarely feel crowded. They feel peaceful, orderly, balanced, comfortable. The secret isn't that Japanese people spend every weekend scrubbing floors or organizing closets. In fact, many don't. Instead, they rely on small daily habits that prevent chaos from building in the first place. These habits aren't expensive. They don't require fancy storage systems. They don't depend on having a large house. And, perhaps most importantly, they don't treat cleaning as punishment. Instead, cleaning becomes part of living well. It's woven naturally into everyday life, almost without thinking. Interestingly, this way of living aligns with what researchers now understand about human behavior. Psychologists have long observed that habits require less mental effort than constant decision-making. The more automatic a healthy behavior becomes, the easier it is to maintain. That's one reason diets often fail. Exercise routines are abandoned, and home organization projects lose momentum after just a few weeks. People rely on motivation, but motivation comes and goes. Habits remain. The Japanese approach focuses less on finding motivation and more on creating routines that feel almost effortless. It's a subtle difference, yet it changes everything. Imagine never spending an entire Saturday cleaning because your home never reaches that point in the first place. Imagine opening a drawer and immediately finding what you need. Imagine walking into your living room after a difficult day and feeling your heartbeat slow instead of your stress increase. These aren't magical ideas. They're the result of countless tiny decisions repeated day after day. Researchers studying environmental psychology have discovered something fascinating. Our brains constantly filter enormous amounts of visual information. Every object we see competes for a small amount of our attention. When there are too many competing signals, the brain works harder to decide what deserves attention and what should be ignored. Most of us don't notice this happening, but we often notice its effects. Difficulty concentrating, feeling mentally drained, misplacing everyday items, procrastinating simple tasks, feeling overwhelmed without knowing exactly why. Think about the last time you searched for your glasses, or your car keys, or your phone charger. How much time did you lose? More importantly, how much mental energy disappeared with it? Now multiply that by hundreds of small moments every year. Suddenly, clutter isn't just about appearance. It becomes something that quietly steals time, attention, and peace of mind. This matters even more as we grow older. Many adults over 50 begin noticing that multitasking becomes more difficult than it once was. Names are occasionally forgotten. Appointments require reminders. Distractions become more frustrating. These changes can be completely normal, but creating a calmer environment may reduce unnecessary mental demands, allowing the brain to focus on what truly matters. That's one reason healthcare professionals often encourage organized living spaces for older adults. Not because perfection matters, but because simplicity often makes daily life easier. An organized home may also reduce the risk of trips and falls, especially when pathways remain clear and frequently used items are easy to reach. Again, this isn't about creating fear. Many factors influence fall risk, but thoughtful organization is one practical step that can support safety and independence. Then there's another invisible connection many people never consider: stress. When we think about stress, we usually imagine deadlines, financial worries, family responsibilities, health concerns. Rarely do we think about laundry sitting on the couch. Yet our brains often interpret unfinished tasks as problems waiting to be solved. Every unopened package, every overflowing drawer, every pile of paperwork becomes another reminder that something still needs attention. Individually, these reminders seem insignificant. Together, they can create a constant feeling that life is slightly out of control. Researchers sometimes describe this as cognitive load, the amount of information your brain is trying to manage at any given moment. The heavier that load becomes, the more mentally exhausted we may feel. Now, imagine reducing that burden, not by working harder, but by changing small daily habits. That is where Japanese philosophy becomes so interesting, because these traditions were never designed simply to create beautiful homes. They were designed to create harmony between people and the spaces they live in. And harmony affects much more than appearance. It influences mood, relationships, productivity, rest, even the simple joy of coming home after a long day. Over generations, Japanese families developed small rituals that quietly prevent clutter from taking over. Many of these traditions began long before modern psychologists studied the brain. Yet remarkably, today's science often supports the wisdom behind them. Some habits take less than 10 seconds. Others require only a slight shift in thinking. None require expensive renovations. None demand perfection. Instead, they remind us that lasting change rarely comes from one dramatic weekend of cleaning. It comes from tiny actions repeated so consistently that they become part of who we are. And the very first habit might be the simplest of them all. In fact, once you understand it, you may never look at everyday clutter the same way again. The science explained and Japanese habit number 1, the one-touch rule. There is a popular saying in Japan that every action leaves a trace. Sometimes that trace is visible, like muddy footprints on a clean floor. Other times, it is invisible, quietly shaping our habits, our thoughts, and even the way we experience our homes. What many people don't realize is that clutter rarely appears all at once. A messy home is almost never created in a single day. Instead, it grows through dozens of tiny moments that seem too insignificant to matter. A jacket draped over a chair, because you'll wear it again tomorrow. A shopping bag left by the door, because you're too tired to unpack it. Letters placed on the kitchen counter with a thought, "I'll deal with these later." A coffee mug sitting beside the sofa after a long evening. None of these decisions feels important. In fact, each one takes only a few seconds. But together, they create something much larger. Researchers who study habit formation have found that our brains naturally seek the easiest path. Whenever we repeat the same behavior, the brain gradually turns it into an automatic routine, reducing the amount of conscious effort required. This is incredibly helpful when the habit supports our health. Brushing our teeth, washing our hands, taking a daily walk. But the same process works for unhealthy habits too. If we repeatedly leave things just for now, our brains begin to treat temporary clutter as normal. Soon we stop noticing it altogether. This phenomenon is sometimes called clutter blindness. The objects haven't disappeared. Our awareness of them has. You may have experienced this yourself. Perhaps you visited a friend's house and immediately noticed stacks of magazines, overflowing shelves, or clothes on the furniture. Yet your friend seemed completely comfortable, almost unaware of the mess. The opposite is also true. Someone visiting your own home may notice things you've stopped seeing weeks ago. Our brains adapt remarkably quickly to our surroundings. The danger isn't that clutter suddenly harms us. The danger is that we become so accustomed to it that we no longer realize how much mental energy it quietly consumes. This is where the first Japanese habit changes everything. It is beautifully simple, and once practiced consistently, it becomes almost effortless. It is known as the one-touch rule. At first glance, it sounds almost too simple to matter. The idea is this: whenever possible, touch an item only once before putting it where it belongs. Imagine arriving home after grocery shopping. Many people place the bags on the kitchen floor, then answer a text message, then change clothes, then sit down for a moment. The groceries remain there for another hour. Later, they are finally unpacked. The bags were handled multiple times before the task was truly finished. Now, imagine a different approach. You walk through the door. You place the groceries directly into the refrigerator or pantry. The task is complete. Nothing waits for later. Nothing becomes tomorrow's problem. It sounds almost insignificant. Yet this tiny habit quietly transforms the way clutter develops. Every unfinished task creates what psychologists sometimes call an open loop. Your brain remembers that something still needs attention, even if you're watching television, reading a book, or trying to fall asleep. A small part of your mind continues tracking unfinished responsibilities. The more open loops we create throughout the day, the more mental energy they require. The one-touch rule closes those loops immediately. Instead of carrying dozens of unfinished tasks in your mind, you finish them before they have a chance to grow. Think about your shoes. How often do they end up somewhere in the hallway? Your jacket, your keys, your reading glasses, remote controls, phone chargers. Each item asks for only a few extra seconds. Yet postponing those few seconds often creates minutes, or even hours, of work later. This principle is surprisingly similar to what behavioral scientists call reducing friction. Healthy habits become easier when they require less effort. Unhealthy habits become weaker when we remove opportunities for them to grow. By putting an object away immediately, you eliminate the need to make the same decision again later. No reminders, no guilt, no growing pile of unfinished tasks. The home quietly stays organized because clutter never has the opportunity to spread. This approach also changes something deeper than organization. It changes your relationship with responsibility. Many people associate cleaning with stress. They imagine long weekends spent vacuuming every room, sorting closets, and tackling overwhelming piles of belongings. The Japanese perspective is remarkably different. Cleaning isn't viewed as a separate event. It becomes part of everyday living. Putting a cup directly into the dishwasher isn't considered cleaning. It's simply finishing the action. Returning a book to its shelf isn't another chore. It's completing the moment. Over time, this subtle shift reduces the emotional burden many people attach to housework. There is no dramatic cleanup because there is rarely a dramatic mess. One small action replaces another, day after day, week after week, year after year. Interestingly, researchers studying decision fatigue have found that every choice we make consumes a small amount of mental energy. What should I wear? What should I eat? Should I answer this email now or later? Where did I leave my wallet? Although each decision seems minor, hundreds of them accumulate throughout the day. By creating automatic habits like the one-touch rule, we reduce unnecessary decisions. Life becomes just a little simpler, a little quieter, a little less mentally demanding. Perhaps that's one reason organized homes often feel so peaceful. Not because they're perfect, but because they remove countless tiny interruptions that compete for our attention. If you've ever spent 20 minutes searching for your house keys before an appointment, or looked everywhere for your glasses only to find them in an unexpected place, you already understand how frustrating unnecessary disorder can become. Imagine reclaiming those lost moments. Imagine beginning every morning knowing exactly where everything is. No rushing, no panic, No unnecessary stress before the day has even started. This isn't about becoming obsessive. In fact, perfection has very little to do with it. Japanese philosophy rarely celebrates perfection. Instead, it values consistency. A single thoughtful action repeated every day is often more powerful than one massive effort once a month. That idea extends far beyond cleaning. It reflects how many healthy habits are built. Healthy eating, regular movement, better sleep, mindfulness. None depend on perfection. They depend on small actions repeated consistently. The one-touch rule teaches exactly that lesson. It isn't really about putting away a coffee mug. It's about respecting your future self. Every item you return today is one less decision waiting for you tomorrow. And as simple as this first habit may seem, the second Japanese habit takes the idea even further. Because before Japanese families even step inside their homes, they practice a ritual that quietly separates the stress of the outside world from the peace waiting within. It begins with a space that many Western homes don't even have. A small area by the front door. Simple, often overlooked. Yet it may be one of the most powerful habits for creating a cleaner home and a calmer mind. Daily microcleaning, the power of small moments. If you ask many people when they plan to clean their home, the answer is often the same. This weekend. It sounds reasonable. After all, weekdays are busy. There are jobs to finish, meals to prepare, errands to run, and families to care for. So cleaning gets postponed. One day becomes 2. 2 days become 5. By Saturday morning, what started as a few scattered items has become an overwhelming project. The floors need vacuuming. The kitchen counters have disappeared beneath clutter. Dust has gathered on shelves. Laundry has piled higher than expected. Suddenly, cleaning no longer feels like a simple task. It feels like punishment. And that feeling alone is enough to make many people delay it even longer. Psychologists have long understood an interesting truth about human behavior. The larger a task appears, the more likely we are to avoid starting it. This is known as task avoidance. It isn't laziness. It is the brain trying to protect itself from something that feels mentally overwhelming. The irony is that postponing the task usually makes it much bigger. Japanese homes often avoid this cycle through a remarkably simple habit. Rather than treating cleaning as a major weekly event, many families quietly weave it into everyday life. 5 minutes in the morning, a few minutes after dinner, a quick reset before going to bed. No timers, no pressure, no marathon cleaning sessions, just small actions performed consistently. At first glance, 5 minutes may seem insignificant. Can 5 minutes really make a difference? Surprisingly, yes. Behavioral scientists often explain that consistency matters far more than intensity. Think about brushing your teeth. No one waits until Sunday evening and brushes for an entire hour to make up for the week. Instead, we spend just a few minutes every day. Those tiny moments protect our oral health far better than occasional bursts of effort ever could. Cleaning works in much the same way. When crumbs are wiped away immediately, they never become hardened stains. When dishes are washed after meals, they never become an intimidating mountain in the sink. When a bathroom mirror is quickly wiped every few days, it rarely reaches the point where deep scrubbing feels necessary. Small actions prevent large problems. This philosophy extends beyond the home. Doctors often encourage regular physical activity, even if it's just a short daily walk, because consistency supports long-term health more effectively than exercising intensely once every few weeks. The same principle applies to sleep, nutrition, hydration, even stress management. Tiny habits repeated consistently shape our lives more than occasional bursts of motivation. Japanese culture embraces this idea in many areas of life. Improvement isn't expected to happen overnight. It grows little by little, one day at a time, one habit at a time. Cleaning simply follows the same pattern. Researchers who study habits have discovered something fascinating. Every time we complete a small task, the brain experiences a sense of progress. That feeling encourages us to continue. This is one reason why making the bed each morning often leads to other productive behaviors throughout the day. One completed action naturally encourages another. Cleaning one kitchen counter often leads to wiping the dining table. Folding one blanket may inspire organizing a nearby shelf. Momentum builds quietly, without forcing it, without relying on willpower alone. Contrast that with waiting until the house feels completely out of control. The task suddenly feels impossible. Instead of creating momentum, it creates resistance. Many people believe they need more discipline. In reality, they often need smaller starting points. A Japanese grandmother might never describe her routine as a productivity system. She simply wipes the kitchen while the kettle boils, straightens a cushion before leaving the room, returns a book to its shelf after reading, waters the plants while opening the windows in the morning. These actions appear ordinary, but together, they prevent disorder from taking hold. Over weeks and months, the difference becomes remarkable. The home rarely reaches a point where deep cleaning feels overwhelming. Instead, it stays quietly maintained, not because someone works harder, but because someone works a little earlier. There is another health benefit hidden within this approach. Many people don't realize how physically demanding marathon cleaning sessions can become. Hours of bending, lifting, scrubbing, carrying heavy baskets of laundry. For older adults, this can sometimes lead to unnecessary fatigue or discomfort. Breaking household tasks into smaller daily routines spreads the physical effort across the week. Instead of exhausting the body in one afternoon, movement becomes gentle and manageable. This approach also creates another unexpected benefit. It keeps us connected to our living environment. When we spend a few mindful minutes caring for our homes each day, we naturally notice small problems before they grow larger. A loose cabinet handle, a dripping faucet, dust beginning to collect, a rug that has shifted and could become a tripping hazard. These small observations help maintain both the home and the people living inside it. Perhaps this is why many Japanese homes don't simply look clean. They feel cared for. Every room reflects quiet attention rather than rushed perfection. And that distinction matters, because a cared-for home often encourages us to care for ourselves as well. A peaceful bedroom invites better sleep. A tidy kitchen makes preparing healthy meals easier. A clear dining table encourages families to sit together rather than eating in separate rooms. Our surroundings quietly shape our daily choices, not by forcing us, but by making healthy behaviors feel just a little easier. The famous architect Frank Lloyd Wright once said that space is the breath of art. The Japanese have long understood a similar idea. A home doesn't become peaceful because every corner is filled. It becomes peaceful because every object has a purpose. And that brings us to another remarkable Japanese habit, one that eliminates one of the biggest causes of everyday clutter: the habit of giving every single item a permanent home. Because when your belongings always know where they belong, your mind no longer has to wonder where they are. Everything has a home, and the philosophy of Ma. Imagine this simple question. Right now, without looking, do you know exactly where your house keys are? Your reading glasses? The TV remote? Your phone charger? Perhaps you answered yes. Perhaps you hesitated for a moment. That brief pause reveals something important. Many of us don't lose our belongings because we're forgetful. We lose them because those belongings were never given a permanent place to live. One day the keys are left on the kitchen counter. The next day they're in yesterday's jacket pocket. Later they're sitting on a bedside table. Each location seems reasonable at the time. Yet every new location asks your brain to remember another exception. Eventually, the exceptions become impossible to track. Researchers who study memory explain that our brains perform best when they can rely on patterns rather than constant recall. Patterns reduce mental effort. Randomness increases it. Japanese homes are often designed around this simple principle. Every object has a home, not just the obvious things like dishes and clothes. Everything: umbrellas, slippers,
pens,
scissors,
mail,
remote controls, even shopping bags. Nothing is expected to find a place later. It already has one. This may sound like a small difference. In reality, it changes the entire rhythm of daily life. Think about what happens when an item has no designated place. Each time you use it, you must decide where to leave it. That decision may take only a few seconds, But multiply those seconds by hundreds of objects every single day, and suddenly your brain is making thousands of unnecessary decisions every week. Psychologists call this decision fatigue. The more choices we make throughout the day, the harder it becomes to make good ones later. That's one reason people often feel mentally exhausted by evening, even if they haven't done physically demanding work. It's not only the big decisions that tire us. It's the hundreds of tiny ones. Where should I put this? Where did I leave that? Should I deal with it now or later? Japanese organization quietly removes many of those questions before they even appear. A designated place turns every decision into a simple habit. The keys always go here. The glasses always go there. The mail always belongs in one tray. The blanket always returns to one basket. No searching, no guessing, no frustration. Interestingly, neuroscience suggests that routines free the brain to focus on more meaningful tasks. Instead of wasting mental energy remembering where objects might be, attention becomes available for conversations, creative thinking, learning, or simply enjoying a peaceful evening. This principle becomes especially valuable as we grow older. Many adults notice that they appreciate simplicity more than they once did, not because they are less capable, but because they understand the value of conserving energy for what truly matters. When everyday tasks become easier, life feels lighter. Researchers studying healthy aging often emphasize the importance of creating environments that support independence. An organized home can make daily activities more manageable by reducing unnecessary obstacles and helping frequently used items remain easy to find. For older adults, this can contribute to confidence, reduce frustration, and make everyday routines smoother. Again, organization is not a medical treatment, but it is one practical way to support a safer and more comfortable lifestyle. There is another fascinating reason why Japanese homes often feel so peaceful. It's something that visitors notice immediately, even if they can't explain it. The rooms don't simply contain less clutter. They contain more empty space. In Japanese culture, there is a beautiful concept known as ma. There is no perfect English translation. Many describe it as the space between things. But ma is much more than emptiness. It is intentional space. Space that allows the eyes to rest. Space that allows the mind to breathe. Space that gives meaning to everything around it. Imagine listening to your favorite piece of music. If every instrument played constantly without a single pause, the music would become exhausting. The silence between the notes is just as important as the notes themselves. Without pauses, there is no rhythm. Without empty space, there is no balance. Our homes work in much the same way. When every shelf is completely full, every wall is covered, every table crowded, the eyes never receive a chance to rest. The brain continues processing object after object after object. Environmental psychologists have found that visually busy environments demand more attention than simpler ones. Again, this doesn't mean everyone must live in a minimalist home. People find comfort in different surroundings. But reducing unnecessary visual clutter can make a space feel calmer and easier to navigate. Japanese homes often achieve this by respecting empty space instead of trying to fill every corner. This philosophy extends naturally into another habit that has become famous around the world: vertical storage. Because homes in Japan are often smaller than those in many other countries, every centimeter matters. Instead of spreading belongings across floors and countertops, Japanese families frequently think upward rather than outward. Shelves extend toward the ceiling. Hooks make use of empty walls. Cabinets are divided into carefully organized sections. Clothing is folded, so it stands upright rather than being stacked into unstable piles. Kitchen tools hang neatly instead of filling crowded drawers. The result isn't simply more storage. It's greater visibility. When every item can be seen at a glance, nothing becomes forgotten at the bottom of a pile. How many times have you purchased something only to discover later that you already owned it? An extra pair of scissors. Another flashlight. Duplicate batteries. A second bottle of spices hiding behind the first. Clutter often costs more than space. It quietly costs money. When we can't see what we already have, we buy more than we need. Vertical organization helps solve that problem by making everything visible and accessible. It also makes cleaning easier. Clear countertops can be wiped in seconds. Open floors can be vacuumed without moving piles of belongings. Simple systems reduce future effort. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson hidden within Japanese organization. The goal is never to clean more. The goal is to create a home that naturally stays clean. Not because someone works endlessly, but because thoughtful habits quietly prevent disorder from taking root in the first place. At first, these habits may seem almost too simple to matter. Putting something away immediately, removing your shoes at the door, respecting your possessions, cleaning for just a few minutes each day, giving every object a permanent home, leaving space instead of filling every corner. None of these actions changes your life overnight, but together, they begin transforming something much deeper than your home. They begin transforming the way you think. And that may be the greatest Japanese secret of all. Because lasting change rarely comes from one extraordinary effort. It grows from ordinary moments, repeated with care, day after day. Yet before we finish, there are still a few common myths that deserve to be challenged. Because many people believe creating a peaceful home requires perfection. The truth is something entirely different. Common myths, what research suggests, key takeaways, and conclusion. There is a common belief that some people are simply born organized. They naturally know where everything belongs. Their homes always look perfect. Cleaning comes easily to them. Everyone else, it seems, is simply trying to catch up. But the more researchers study human behavior, the clearer one truth becomes. Organization is rarely a personality trait. It is usually the result of systems. And systems can be learned. Think about driving a car. The first time behind the wheel, every movement demands attention. Mirrors, pedals, steering, traffic. It feels overwhelming. Months later, many of those actions happen almost automatically. Not because the brain became smarter overnight, but because repeated practice turned conscious effort into habit. The same principle applies to the home. People with consistently organized homes are not necessarily spending more time cleaning. In many cases, they simply spend less time creating clutter. That difference changes everything. Another myth suggests that a peaceful home must be completely empty. This idea has become closely associated with minimalism, but it misunderstands the heart of Japanese living. Traditional Japanese homes are not cold or lifeless. They contain books, family photographs, treasured heirlooms, favorite teacups, children's artwork, and objects that carry personal meaning. The difference is that these items are chosen intentionally rather than accumulated by accident. A peaceful home is not one without possessions. It is one where possessions support your life instead of quietly controlling it. There is another misconception worth challenging. Many people believe they need an entire weekend to become organized. So they wait. They tell themselves they'll begin after the holidays, after retirement, after the children move out, after work becomes less busy. But that perfect moment rarely arrives. Behavioral researchers often emphasize that lasting habits are built through small, repeatable actions rather than dramatic life overhauls. 5 minutes today is often more valuable than 5 hours next month. Waiting for perfect circumstances usually delays meaningful progress. Beginning with one drawer, one shelf, one daily routine allows change to become sustainable. This is closely connected to another Japanese idea known as Kaizen. Kaizen simply means continuous improvement through small, consistent steps. It has transformed businesses around the world, but its greatest power may be in everyday life. Instead of asking, "How can I organize my entire house this weekend?" Kaizen asks a different question. What is one small improvement I can make today? That question feels lighter, more realistic, and surprisingly powerful. Research into habit formation repeatedly shows that small successes build confidence. Confidence encourages consistency. Consistency creates lasting change. It is a gentle cycle that grows stronger with time. Modern environmental psychology offers another fascinating insight. Our homes don't simply reflect our habits. They also influence them. A cluttered kitchen may make cooking healthy meals feel more difficult. A bedroom filled with distractions may make it harder to unwind before sleep. A crowded desk may make concentrating on important work more challenging. The environment doesn't make decisions for us, but it quietly shapes the choices that feel easiest. In the same way, a thoughtfully organized home can encourage healthier routines without demanding constant willpower. A fruit bowl placed where it is easy to see is more likely to be used. Walking paths free from clutter make movement safer and more comfortable. A tidy bedroom may encourage a more relaxing evening routine. These are small changes, yet together they create an environment that supports well-being rather than working against it. It is important, however, to keep these ideas in perspective. No home will eliminate stress completely. Life will always include unexpected challenges. Health is influenced by many factors, including sleep, nutrition, physical activity, relationships, genetics, and access to medical care. Keeping a home organized is not a cure for anxiety, depression, chronic illness, or any medical condition. If you are experiencing persistent stress, low mood, memory concerns, or changes in your physical or mental health, it is always important to speak with a qualified healthcare professional who can provide appropriate guidance. Still, our surroundings remain one part of the larger picture, one piece we often overlook, one piece we have more control over than we sometimes realize. Perhaps that is why Japanese homes continue to inspire people around the world. Not because they are flawless, not because they are expensive, but because they remind us that peace is often created through ordinary moments. A pair of shoes placed neatly by the door, a table cleared after dinner, a favorite cup returned to its shelf, a few quiet minutes spent caring for the place that cares for us. These moments may seem insignificant on their own, yet together they shape the atmosphere we experience every single day. Imagine waking tomorrow morning. Sunlight begins to fill the room. You know exactly where your glasses are. The kitchen counter is clear. Your keys are waiting where they always are. The floor is open. The air feels calm. Nothing is demanding your attention before the day has even begun. There is no rush to search for missing belongings. No silent reminder of yesterday's unfinished chores. Just a home quietly supporting your day instead of competing with it. That is the true lesson behind these 6 Japanese habits. They are not about becoming perfect. They are not about impressing guests. They are not about spending more time cleaning. They are about creating a home that gently supports your health, your peace of mind, and the life you want to live. A healthier life doesn't always begin with a major decision. Sometimes it begins with putting one item back where it belongs. Sometimes it begins by taking 5 mindful minutes before bed. Sometimes it begins with choosing gratitude over accumulation. And sometimes the smallest habit becomes the beginning of the biggest transformation. So as you finish watching today, don't feel pressured to change everything at once. Choose just one habit. Practice it tomorrow, then the next day. Allow it to become part of your routine. Because lasting change is rarely dramatic. More often, it arrives quietly, one thoughtful action at a time. If you found this documentary helpful and you'd like to explore more evidence-based insights about healthy aging, brain health, nutrition, daily habits, and the science behind living well, be sure to subscribe to Health Decode. Every week, we bring you carefully researched documentaries designed to help you better understand your body, your mind, and the everyday choices that can support a healthier, more balanced life. Thank you for spending these moments with us. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of the people you love, and never underestimate the quiet power of the place you call home.